All right, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of my never-ending quest to make life and things and concepts easier for people in the Rankin Technical College AWD 1000 Web Development Technologies and AWD 1111 database-driven web development classes, I have been creating a series of videos that are based off of the ebooks from Mr. Flavio Copes. He's got several ebooks, and I've already done a series of about 5 videos on his HTML ebook, 12 videos on his CSS ebook, and 5 videos on his beginning JavaScript ebook. This is my second one on the ES52JS Next. When I get done with this, I'll be going into Node.js, then into Express.js, and I'll finish off with React. Okay? All right. So we're up to page 12 of 84 on here, and we're talking about classes. Now, I'm going to give you my take on this before we start. And that is, JavaScript has changed the way that classes are typically set up to make it look more, not exactly, but more like most other programming languages. That said, as it says, under the hood, it's still the same. But this today is how you typically create a class. You use the word class, followed by the class name, which usually starts with an uppercase letter. Then inside of curly braces, and this is the beginning curly brace, and this is the ending curly brace. All right? This says that whenever you create a new person object, you have to pass in a name. Whatever name you pass in will be that name that's right there will be passed into that person's name. And you also have in here, so that's the constructor method, you've got a hello method. So if I created a new person and I passed in Jeff, all right, then that would be the name. And when I called hello, it would say, hello, I am Jeff. So as mentioned there, a class has an identifier, which we can use to create new objects using the word new. When an object is initialized, all right, and typically rather than saying when an object is initialized, you usually say with most object-oriented programming languages, when an object is instantiated. The constructor method is called, and you must pass in any necessary parameters. A class also can have as many methods as it needs. All right, so with this one right here, notice what he's done. He says const Flavio equals new person Flavio. This Flavio that's right there, that you see in the blue, goes right there, and it gets put into that person's name. So when you say Flavio right there, dot hello, that's the name of the person object dot the name of the person method. So it should say, hello, I am Flavio. For inheritance, as it says there, a class can extend another class. The class that's being extended is typically known as the parent class. The class that you are extending to is typically known as the child class. They've got other names as well, and it's really not that important. If the inherited class has a method with the same name as one of the higher classes, the closest method takes precedence. So here we've said class programmer extends person. We are right here creating our own version of the previous hello method that was right there. But now rather than it saying hello, I am followed by the name, it'll say hello, I am. So this call right here will still call the original one. So this will still say something like, in this case, it'll still say, hello, I am Flavio. But then it will add to that, I am a programmer. All right. As mentioned there, classes do not have explicit class variable declarations. You must initialize any variable inside of the constructor. So we didn't create a variable in here called name. No, it was right there. We passed it in, and by using this, that's when it was created. Inside a class, as it says there, you can reference the parent class by using the word super. Okay? All right. Static methods. Normally, methods are defined on the instance and not on the class. So, in other words, some methods should not be static. All right? Some methods should be static. And let me give you an example. All right? Years ago, I was teaching a beginning Java class, and the book we used for the class for that semester was a decent book. But the book we used basically set it up in the first chapter where you created a simple Java program. We're not talking JavaScript here. It was just a simple Java program. All right? And when you clicked a button that said new on it, it created a new little dot on the screen, and that dot represented a balloon. And then there were two other buttons on there. Actually, three other buttons. Another button said grow. And every time you clicked the grow button, that balloon got 10 pixels bigger. There was another button there that said shrink. And every time you clicked the shrink button, the balloon got 10 pixels smaller. All right. In addition, there was another button that said balloon count. And every time you pressed that button, it would show on the screen how many balloons you had. All right. So if I had put 4 balloons on the screen and I clicked the balloon count button, it should come up with 4. That function should be static because that function for the balloon count is shared by all 4 of the balloon objects. However, each individual balloon object should not be static. Because if I click the grow button, it should only grow for the balloon object that I want it to grow on or grow for. All right, so static methods are shared by each and every object that's in the class. All right. JavaScript does not have a built-in way to define private or protected methods. Private methods are used in a lot of programming languages just so that you've got more control over how variables are set, who is allowed to set them, etc. If something is protected, you've got to look at it this way. If something is public, it's available to everybody. If something is private, it's got a very smaller scope. If something is protected, in the example we gave before with a person, if I define we don't have protected variables here, but if we had one and we define it as protected in the person class, you could change it not only in the person class, but in any child class as well. That's what protected is. All right. Most programming languages have getters and setters. All right. And as mentioned right here, you can add methods prefixed with the word get or with the word set to create these getters and setters. In the case of set, notice that the this.name is on the left-hand side of the equal sign. It's also known as a mutator because you're actually changing the value of the name. When you have a get, there's not even an equal sign. It's called an accessor. And again, if you're still confused, and I've given this example before in other classes, if it's the first day of class and 3 students walk in. The first one walks in, and I say, "Hi, my name is Jeff Scott. What's your name?" And he says, "My name's John Smith." I say, "Hi, John. Nice to meet you." So the next student walks in a couple minutes later, and I say, "Hi, my name is Jeff Scott." And he says, "Hi, my name is John Jones." I say, "Hi, John. It's nice to meet you." All right. A couple minutes later, a third student walks in, and I say, "Hi, my name is Jeff Scott." And they say, "Hi, my name is John Wilson." I say, "It's nice to meet you." Now I'm taking attendance, and I go, "John?" And all 3 of them say yes. Well, that's a little difficult. So if I say to the first one, "John Smith," I'm going to call you John from now on. John Smith. You are from now on going to be referred to as John. John Jones, I'm going to call you JJ. And John Wilson, you've got your choice. We can either call you Johnny or Jonathan, because I see your real name is Jonathan. All right? So as far as that goes, what I'm doing there is I am mutating. I am changing what their name is. It's not a permanent change, but as far as me working with it, it now is. On the other hand, when they came in, so that changing the name is this. When they came in and I asked them their name and they said, "My name is John," all right, that's this one. So this mutates, the set mutates or changes, forget I just said that. The set mutates or changes the get accesses. Now, you can have only a getter, which makes it read-only. So there's no set in there. You can also have only a setter, which means it's write-only. You don't have those as often. All right. Default parameters, as it says, were introduced in 2015, and they're nice. All right. So if I do this, I've got this function called do something. And notice it's got a parameter, one parameter in here. If we don't pass anything in, so if we just call do something without passing anything in, param1 will be set to test. All right? And we can do it with more than one parameter as well. But the point is this. Think about when this might be really useful. If I'm writing a program for Rankin Technical College, and let's assume that 98.5% of the people that go to Rankin, all right, live in Missouri. It's a Missouri college, but some might live in Illinois or right on the border. So let's just assume that. So if I said state equal Mo there, then the only time I would have to actually pass in a state, the only time would be if it wasn't Missouri. All right? It says it used to be a lot harder to do this, and I'm not going to go through that, but it was. All right. Now, they show some examples in here, and they're also getting into something here that we're going to have to cover in class that's called destructuring. All right, so this is providing default values to an object. So if you called it and didn't pass in a color, it would default to a color of yellow, is what they're saying right there. All right, template literals we've hit on already, but let's just go over them one more time. So if I do this, okay, so I come in here and I say let height equal 71. Let weight equal 175. All right, and let's do a little bit more on here. Hold on. I lost my connection here, so I've got to make sure I'm going to lose power in just a minute, so I've got to make sure that this is plugged in. All right. So let's say this. I'm hard coding values in here, which you typically wouldn't do, but it's fine. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to say let f name for the first name equal Jeff. Again, I put jet in there. I don't know why, but it should be let. All right. Let L name for the last name equal Scott. Now, I wish I was, again, 175 pounds, but I am 72 inches. So if I do this, and if I say I want an alert that prints this stuff out, I'm going to show you two ways I can do this. I can say alert, my name is fname plus lname. And let's say I want that on one line, so a \n. I need a plus in there. Plus I am all right. What this should print out is my name is, and then it's going to grab the first name, Jeff, then a space, Scott, then on a new line, I am 72 inches tall and weigh 175 pounds. And it'll work. There's absolutely no problem doing that. But there's a lot of pluses in here. You got to remember to do this, and you got to remember to do that, etc. It's kind of a pain. All right. So let's see if there's a better way of doing this. In fact, let's do this. Let's make it even simpler. We're going to say this. Name height like I said, I'm just trying to cut this down to make it even easier for us to look at. Let's see. Weight. All right, so that should say name, Jeff Scott, so that's this, then a line break, then height, 72 inches, so we'll put there inches, period, and then weight. So height, we'll say 72 inches, period. In fact, let's put this on 3 different lines. How's that? So we'll put another \n here, and then it'll say weight, 175 pounds. Totally fine. Nothing at all wrong with doing it that way. That's the way for years it's been done. But let's do this same thing with a template literal. And hopefully you'll start to see why it's a little easier to use. Again, it must start with the backtick, which is right next or underneath your escape key, and end with a backtick. But inside of there, we're going to put in this. Name. We don't have to break out now, but we have to take the variable name and put it or encapsulate it inside of curly braces, prefaced by a $sign. So fname space lname. So that right there, just that, has now going to print this. All right. And we want a \n. height inches, another \n, weight, finally the word pounds. Now that's a little hard to read, all of it, so I'm going to shrink down the size of my screen just a tad here so you can read it all. All right, that's going to give you the exact same thing. The recommendation today, typically, is to use template literals when you can, because it actually makes for an easier to create string because you're not constantly bopping in and out between string mode and putting in a variable. All right, okay. And that's what they're saying in here. Multi-line strings. Prior to ES6, if you wanted to put strings over 2 lines, you actually could, but the last character had to be a back space like that. Even though it's shown on 2 lines, it would render or actually print out if you printed it on 1 line like this. If you wanted it on 2 lines, you'd put a \n in there. We've talked about that before, or like this. As it says, template literals make multi-line strings much simpler. All right. Now, it says once a template literal is opened with a backtick, you just press enter to create a new line with no special characters. And if you've got this, it's going to be rendered like this. All right. So it says with no special characters, and it's rendered as is. Spacing matters, so if you do this, notice what it looks like. You'd have to take this and move it all the way over to here. All right. An easy way to fix this problem is to have an empty first line and then append everything else afterwards, starting from the beginning. What template literals do is by you putting the variable in there, it does what's called interpolate the variable. That's exactly what it's doing right there. It's rather than giving that is giving the value of the variable. Now I'm looking here and I'm at 23 minutes. Time to stop this lecture.